casual tea with Amon and B. It's a 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 casual tea.
And we are back with another casual tea. I'm so excited to be here with my friend, my brother, Amon Edwin. And yes, I know some of y'all is looking at your phone like y'all deprived us of casual tea for damn near 6 months. And now y'all want to come back to back like you Jizzy Drake in his prime. But listen, when the news calls, your good casualty spillers, Amon and I are here to deliver. How are you since we last seen each other?
I'm well. I am well. We went to go see Keke Palmer and Issa Rae and SZA's new movie, One of Them
Yes.
Days, and it was a good time.
It really was. Amon had me in the city on a school night while it was snowing, but
I did not know it was snow. When I walked out of my apartment, I was like, "Oh, okay." I had no idea.
I had to let my car warm up to defrost the ice. I had to drive slow for a little bit. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. It was given one of those days. But while we were in the movies watching 1,000,001 horror trailers, because that's only what seems to be coming to a movie is these horror movies. Amon and I were talking about Wendy Williams, and I felt like it was important for us to jump on the casualty and just talk about what is going on with Wendy Williams. We all know how you do it. Wendy from the Wendy Williams Show. She is a pioneer in radio. She has trailblazed the way for women, for Black people, for Black women, and she left the scene almost 3 years ago. 2022 is when her Wendy Williams talk show ended. And since then, it has just been a lot with Wendy. She got a divorce from her husband, Kevin. He had a baby on her. Wendy Williams was going through an absolute lot. They did a documentary on her at that time, kind of like breaking down everything that had went on in her divorce and all of these things. And then after that, we started seeing these bizarre sightings of Wendy in the tabloids. She has lymphedema in her legs, and so her legs swell up, so she's always wearing these boots. But now we are seeing her in a wheelchair. We're seeing her speaking to paparazzi looking strange. And Wendy went under guardianship in 2002, the same year the Wendy Williams show ended. Her bank, Wells Fargo, alleged that the 60-year-old was an incapacitated person who had experienced undue influence and financial exploitation, and they placed her in this conservative. Now, y'all know I always mess the word up, and I was saying it right all morning. Conservatorship, very similarly to Britney Spears. And since she's been in this conservatorship, aka guardianship, so they have frozen her assets. She doesn't have access to her money. Around the first documentary that came out, people were alleging that her son was abusing her financially. He had an apartment in Miami. He had racked up, and we talked about this on the casualty, $30,000 worth of Uber Eats and different things. And so they placed all of her money on hold under Wells Fargo, and we just haven't really seen Wendy. We've seen bits and pieces of her going to the store, and not really the Wendy that we know and love from her talk show. More recently, we have saw these Wendy sightings. Maybe a month ago, we saw an image of Wendy at her son Kevin Jr.'s graduation from school in Miami. Prior to that, maybe 2 months prior to that, another article had came out that stated that Wendy Williams was permanently incapacitated. She's not functioning, and just the headline came out, and then that essentially was it. And we're all like, no, this can't be. We feel so bad. We're so sad for Wendy. What is going on? It just doesn't make sense. A lot of these things. And then maybe less than a year ago, the other documentary came out, and I'm not sure, that might have been on A&E, and that Wendy that we saw in that documentary was not the Wendy that we know. It
Uh,
seemed like she was abusing alcohol. We know that drug and alcohol abuse is something that Wendy has been open and honest with us in the years of her on radio, even on TV. At one point in time, her show went on hiatus, and then she came back and revealed to us that she was living in a sober house. And so in this documentary, it just seemed like Wendy Williams had nothing but enablers around her. We saw her niece Alex kind of pop up, and Wendy Williams had this assistant that was just doing any and everything that she said. And we just didn't understand what was going on. We learned that Wendy, at that time, her family had no idea where she was. They couldn't get in contact with her because this guardian, Sabrina, I want to say Morrissey,
something like that.
is not allowing Wendy to see her family. We see her in this documentary, and we're like, she clearly is unwell. And what is this guardian doing if we are seeing this documentary where it is evident that Wendy is struggling and not the same? Then Sabrina sued A&E for this documentary. A&E then sued her back and said, no. We got questions and we need for you to provide these answers. And so that's the short cliff notes of what's been going on with Wendy thus far until last week. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was rough for a lot of people to watch this decline, especially a lot of her fans. I didn't really spend a lot of time watching Wendy Williams. And then when I started actually getting into podcasting, I want to say like around, this is like 2015. A lot of the hot topics that me and my co-host would come up with, Wendy Williams would always be surrounding a few of them because, you know, she's Wendy Williams. She is the town crier, as it were. She is someone who is always in the know, always up on the fresh gossip. And I remember my initial reaction to sort of watching clips of her was that I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this chick because it seems like she gets herself into a lot of trouble with a lot of different celebrities. It seems like she says things just to get buzz on her show. It seems like she just doesn't really have anything going on with her, so she just spends her time talking about everybody else. And then the more and more, like as the years go by and I start to like appreciate podcasting and talk shows more in general for the art form that they truly are, I kind of started to understand why she had such a loyal fan base and why people were so interested in what she had to say. Because yes, does she say things that she should be saying sometimes? Yes. Has it gotten her into trouble? Yes. Has it gotten her fired from prior positions? Yes.
But wait, and you know what those prior, you know what got her fired too on Hot 97,
yes,
which is crazy.
Yes. And we can talk about that. But is she always the most palatable person? No. But does she have a God-given gift for gab? Yes. Because you can tell that she is just very, very passionate about what she does. And it's people say it all the time. It is very hard to sort of be the only one on your show and just talk. So many morning daytime shows, they're interview based. They have multiple people on the show, but she didn't need anything. She just needed her mug, her chair, and her audience. That's all she needed. And it's very compelling to watch and very entertaining. So I, was very, very sad to see all of this happening, but in a way it was kind of like a little bit of karma. And I'm kind of glad that Don Lemon, and we'll talk about him in a bit, but after his interview with her, he said, I'm tired of the narrative that this is all karma, this is all, this is what she deserves. Because yes, like I just said, yes, she's gotten herself into trouble, but people can grow, people can change, people can be better than what they were. And she's also been one to always acknowledge, yeah, I kind of messed up there. So I don't think that it's healthy or kosher to be like, that's what you get, bitch. Like the lady's going through it, and it's you can be sympathetic, and that's okay,
Yeah. And it's just crazy because on the Wendy show, one of the most popular segments was Hot Topics. And towards the end of the Wendy Williams show, which is now the Sherry Shepherd show, it seemed like Wendy's life was the hot topic with her husband Kevin, his alleged mistress, him buying a house a mile down from where Wendy and Kevin lived, Wendy discovering the house, Wendy
Another
going to the house.
baby.
Okay, having another baby, just all of this craziness about Wendy. And at the end of the day, she's a journalist, right? Like, love or hate her, Wendy was real. She was somebody like an aunt that, like, I remember growing up, my sister used to listen to her on the radio because when she did get fired from Hot 97 due to making these accusations about Sean P. Diddy Combs that Wendy Williams has been saying for years. And now in 2024 and 2025, it seems like everything Wendy was saying and reporting on at that time was true. So
It is a
Wendy,
travesty that she is not here with
it
us today.
right.
Like this, oh my God, can you imagine the coverage that she would be doing on all of this stuff right now, knowing that she was one of the first people to be talking about it in this industry? Like I would have tuned into Wendy every day. Every day
Every day.
for the entire duration of this trial, I'd have been like, okay, what does Wendy have to say about it? Because she would have a special segment on her show. She'd be like, all right, this is the Diddy update, y'all. This is what's going down. Woo! And now
Absolutely. And yet she's been saying it for years. Got her fired from Hot 97. Then she came to Philadelphia. She was on Power 99 in the morning. And I just always remember my sister listening to her. And then she got me into Wendy. And so just to see all of this kind of go down has just been so sad. And clearly from the most recent documentary that we saw, the tabloids sightings of Wendy when she was in New York in her apartment and the fans filming her just looking bizarre and deranged. And it's very evident that something cognitive is going on. We haven't seen much of Wendy, haven't heard from her. We know that the conservatorship, the Guardian, has been keeping her away from her family. And I want to say, shortly in the new year on The Breakfast Club, Charlemagne the God revealed that Wendy Williams reached out to him and that he was talking to her. And he said that he's seen the tabloids that she is she has the frontal lobe dementia and that she is permanently incapacitated. He's like, that's not the Wendy that I've been talking to on the phone. And since then, I think that was like January 3rd, Charlemagne has revealed to us that she's been calling him 5 times a day. He's been having ongoing conversations with her, and she is in fact intact. Then this is the weekend of January 18th that we are recording. On Monday, the Breakfast Club put out a post saying that Wendy Williams is breaking her silence. She will be on the Breakfast Club. And I said, what the devil? I made sure I had scheduled something on my work calendar so that I could be there to listen and watch. I was curious if she would be there in person, but she called in with her niece, Alex, and they talked. And essentially, Wendy says that she is in this secured facility that she describes as a luxury prison where she has a room, a TV, a bed, a window. She is in there with maybe 90 and 80-year-old people that are not cognitively there. She does not spend a lot of time with them. She spends the majority of her time in her room. She eats in her room. She does not have access to a laptop, to her cell phone. She has a phone in her room that can only call out. No one can call into her. She can't have visitors like that. The Guardian controls all of this. And then, like, Wendy is essentially telling her story. I want to just get to the facts of what she was saying. And so she doesn't have access to her money. She had 2 twin cats that when she had her apartment, they sold her apartment. They put all of her belongings in storage. They kept telling Wendy that they sent her cats to be cared for. Then Wendy discovered that they sold her cats. So she has $15 to her name. Her money is locked up that this Sabrina lady has all control over. She's making money off of Wendy's money, Wendy alleges. During the interview, Wendy defers to her niece often. Her niece kind of sort of chimes in and speaks about it. Now, before we get to the Don Lemon interview, I do want to say this. There have been people, and I want to know your opinion, Aman, people like Harvey from TMZ has come out and said that he had a 2.5-hour conversation with Wendy. He doesn't understand what's going on. The Wendy that he talked to on that phone was the same Wendy that he knew 10 years ago. He doesn't understand this, why she's being imprisoned, why she can't have access to her family. Charlemagne has declared that she is Wendy, like she's there. A lot of the people in the comment are saying that. They're saying it's not fair what's going on. I agree with most of it. However, I've been doing social work for the last almost decade of my life. I've worked with families. I work with psychiatrists. I work with lawyers. I work in the mental health and drug and alcohol field. So I've seen a lot of things. I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm a doctor. But I cannot sit up here on the Purple Pants podcast and the Casual Tea and say that listening to those interviews, Don Lemon and Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, she does not sound like Wendy from 10 years ago. She does not sound well. And I don't want to be the one to say it, but she doesn't sound with it. Yes, she's able to form sentences, and yes, she's able to say things. But she also says, you know what I'm talking about a lot? She says that a million times. So ask her a question, she kind of like dodges the question. Now, her niece Alex does say that this is an ongoing legal battle, and there are some things that Wendy cannot talk about because it would open her up to being liable. So that is the reason she doesn't answer a lot of the questions. But outside of that, something's going on, right? That's the bottom line. She does not sound like Wendy from 10 years ago. Wendy from 10 years ago would be eating that interview up. Wendy from 10 years ago would not need her niece on the phone to ensure that the messaging that they want to get out is getting clear. Like, let's be clear here, people. And I love Wendy. And I'm just like, I am looking at these comments and they're like, Wendy sounds great. Does she? Now, let me be clear. She sounds a million times better than what we saw on that documentary that A&E put out. Yes. However, she still, I still have concerns. Now, whether I have concerns or not, I still don't believe that she needs to be locked up in a secure facility with no laptop, no access to the internet, can't make a phone call, can't call her family, can't be with her family. Her father is turning 94 in February, and she does not know whether or not she's going to be allowed to go visit him. Now, that is where I will absolutely jump on this free Wendy situation, because something is for sure going on cognitively with her. She does not sound the same. The way that she answers, the way that she talks, it is very clear that something, like, she is not all there. And that absolutely makes her vulnerable to being taken advantage of. Now, do I agree with how in which they are doing? Absolutely not. She should, first of all, like, when your family gets older, if you've ever dealt with someone with dementia, if you ever dealt with, an older family or a mentally ill person in your life, yes, there are ways to have them institutionalized, but also the family gets to decide if we want to take care of them in our home and provide them with the love and care. Like, I'm confused as to why the family is not being given that. Like, they're kind of making it seem like the families are the vultures. We got to stay away from, like, we got to keep Wendy away from, like, that's the part that I just don't understand.
It's, pardon me, it's very interesting because you compare it to Britney Spears' case, and a lot of people, they wanted her to be free because they thought that the conservatorship that her father had over Britney was extremely unfair, didn't give her the autonomy of her own body. She wasn't even allowed to have children. Like that, like when you start to realize like what is in the text of some of these agreements, you're like, okay, this is a little bit too far. For this one, for Wendy, what's egregious is, like you said, why is the family not being considered to be the legal guardian? Why is it some random court-appointed social service person? It doesn't make any sense. Now, did she need to be placed into a conservatorship back in 2022 when things were just not looking good and she was failing to show up to the show, and the alleged alcohol abuse started to become a thing again, and we saw what she looked like back then, and she did not look good. So at that point in time, it does make sense that she was put into a conservatorship, but why is it so restrictive? Why is she not allowed to leave this place that she's in? Why is she not allowed to make any phone calls? Why has her family not seen her in months? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why does her family not know where she is? Like, it's one thing if the family is the issue and they are the ones that were, maybe pressuring her into unwise financial decisions or exploiting her in some way. But there is family that clearly wants to take care of her. So I don't understand why that's not being considered. And I'm not really sure what legal options they do have, because they don't even know where she is.
Mhm.
And that's insane to me. I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I
Right.
don't get it. And is she well? Like you said, she appears to be better. Like, she's been taking medication, so we know she appears to be better. I don't think that she's all the way there. You can tell just by the way that she speaks. It's her thought patterns seem to be just a little weird, and that's okay. That's
Right.
okay. Like, the woman's been very open about her drug addiction, her alcohol abuse. Those kinds of things can have repercussions later in life, on top of the effects of just already aging. So it's okay that she's not all the way there, but does she need to have this tight of a leash on her? It doesn't seem like she does.
Absolutely. And during the interview on the Breakfast Club, and she echoed it on with Don Lemon, is that she feels like the system is broken. And that's something that that Britney Spears even said as well. Like, yeah, sure, there might be a need for some type of supervision, some way, somehow, but it just seems like her human rights are being violated. Like, it doesn't matter if you are cognitively impaired. It doesn't matter if you have a substance abuse problem. You still have rights as a person, as an individual. And it seems like what is happening with Wendy is that, yeah, there is some taking advantage being happening, and it seems like it is coming from this guardianship. Wendy also talked about on the Breakfast Club and with Don Lemon that Wendy and her niece both expressed their fear of retaliation in Wendy doing this press tour and going out and speaking her voice. Wendy said that she wants to see her father. She doesn't know if that's going to be happening. They said in between the break so she did the Breakfast Club in the morning. She was supposed to do Don Lemon in the afternoon. In between that break, I guess she had spoken to Sabrina, and Sabrina at that point in time kind of told her, well, your cats are gone. You're never getting your cats back. We're giving them away. And so again, it seems like that's retaliation. They are doing these tactics to her, which is just crazy. There also are other rumors about this lady Sabrina that in another conservatorship that she was the guardian of, the family has sued her allegedly, and she's in this $30 million lawsuit regarding that. I had seen that and I heard people talking about it. I did try to do some digging before we started podcasting about it. I couldn't find any substantial information regarding that lawsuit. So allegedly, I don't know what is happening there. What I also found was very interesting was the stark differences between the Don Lemon interview and the Breakfast Club interview. Now, the Breakfast Club interview happened earlier in the day. Don Lemon, I'm not sure when it was, but it was significantly later. I don't know if you've heard of sundowning when it comes to people with dementia, where when the sun goes down, they kind of start to spiral and regress. And so it was, Wendy didn't sound 100% on the Breakfast Club. I'll say 50% is at best is what she sounded like on the Breakfast Club. And again, I'm not saying that to be negative. I was happy to hear 50% of Wendy from what we have seen, but it definitely seemed like on the Don Lemon show, she was a little less there. And as much as I love Don Lemon, he was annoying me during this interview. She had her niece Alex there to speak up and to speak for her at times. And throughout the Breakfast Club interview and this Don Lemon interview, Wendy would defer to her. And every time Wendy would defer to her on the Don Lemon, Don would shut the niece up and say, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And I'm assuming he was doing that to be like, I don't want someone speaking for you, Wendy. I want for you to speak for yourself so that the public can understand that it's coming from you. But also a part of me felt like Don was, I don't want to say exploiting, because he says that he is here for Wendy and wants to support Wendy, but it almost seemed like he wanted to get her to like not make sense, because every time that he would pressure her, she would kind of like not answer the question. She would just say something else or go another way, or he would say stuff and it would just go over her head. She wouldn't get like the joke or the nuance that he was talking about. And so again, I don't know if Don's point in that was like, I don't want to hear from your niece. I want the public to hear directly from you. But also it's like Don. I feel like, go ahead.
I think that's what it was. I don't think that there was any type of malintent or him trying to intentionally make her appear some way. I think that what he was most concerned about was just straight up transparency, because for the last few months we haven't gotten to hear her at all. And yes, the niece being there is of course necessary, but the niece also isn't there. The niece doesn't know where Wendy is. The niece doesn't know what the conditions of the living is like.
She does know where she is. She's been to where she's at in New York, but she has been, but she doesn't have free access. And when she goes, she doesn't know whether or not they're going to allow her up, or if she's going to get denied. So it's like they know where she is. It's just the access to Wendy is very restricted.
So I think, well, thank you for clarifying that. I think that it was just most opportune for her to be able to just drink straight from just get it out there, get whatever you need to say, get it out there. And I think that she was dodging questions, because I think, and this kind of just speaks to her clarity, she knew that there were certain things that she was not allowed to say, and she would just sort of like skirt around it. She didn't even mention, she would never say the attorney's name, because she doesn't want any. There must be something that is saying like, you're not allowed to say this, that, and the third. She's trying not to get in trouble. She's trying not to get herself even more restricted than she already is. But I think that he was sensitive to that, because he appreciated that. He kept saying, I've spoken with Alex, like we've already kind of gone through the rundown. Now it's time for you to talk. And that's kind of where I just think where that was coming from.
Yeah, I agree, but I also feel like read the room, Don, because I feel like what you were doing is kind of not, you're making her look worse, in my opinion. I understand you're trying to get it directly from the horse's mouth, but it just, yeah. And then there are people that have been saying with dementia, sometimes there are moments, there are weeks of clarity, and then the dementia kicks in.
And that's fine. It's just no one is here to deny that there's something going on with her. Like but I don't think that she's permanently disabled. I don't think that she is completely incapacitated to the point where she's not allowed to be with her family. That is the main point here. It's like, can she be sick? Of course she can be sick, but allow her to be sick with the people that she loves. We got homeless people out here that are clearly incapacitated, and the government doesn't give a shit about them. But the minute you have someone that is like a high-profile person that has
the minute you have money,
then it's, oh, we gotta lock her away and make sure that she doesn't have access to her money, because yes, there is the capacity for her to make bad choices and bad decisions. We're not saying that that's not there. I'm not saying that certain parts of the conservatorship should not exist. I think that someone should be taking care of her finances. I think that someone should be taking care of her personal things. I believe all of that. Her property needs to be taken care of. I believe all of that. But does she need to be locked up somewhere without access to a phone, without being allowed to talk to her family whenever she
dinner
wants
every
to?
day by herself? Being around 80 and 90-year-old people that I'm sure are lovely and amazing, but like, what does that do for her mental health? What and if she is experiencing what she is experiencing, and she with her cognitive delay, do you think her not being around people that are functioning right? Do you not think that would not help? Do you not think where she is at could exacerbate the situation?
About how people with dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that, being around people that they know, that helps bring things back. Like listening to music that they've grown up hearing, that helps bring things back. So why would you take that away? It doesn't make any sense.
There are countless studies about what solitary confinement does to the mind. You being by yourself. And of course they'll say, oh yeah, she's not by herself. She has access to these. And she's telling you she's confining herself because she doesn't want to be a part of it. It's just crazy. And again, the system is very much so broke. We've seen it with Whitney. We've seen it with Brittany. We've seen it a little bit with Whitney too, but and we're seeing it with Wendy. And it's like, yeah, we're not saying that there isn't some level of supervision that the bank should have in place so that people just aren't getting her to agree to stuff. However, I also feel like this is Wendy money, and she should be allowed to do with it what she wants. And the one thing that I will say is that, like, when people are saying, oh, her son Kevin Jr. is spending this money and doing all this stuff, first of all, the one thing that we know for sure is that Wendy didn't play about her son Kevin. She has said on multiple times throughout the years that she wants everything to be left to Kevin. And it's like, who doesn't spend their parents' money? Who doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's his mom. And so, yeah, okay. There should be maybe a limit or something, but like Wendy in this state and the Wendy before has always wanted to give her son the world. And like, who is this conservator to, like, it just is crazy again. And so I think that there is absolutely a need, but not to this point. It definitely, in my opinion, feels like you're trying to keep her from her family. You're trying to keep her isolated. You're trying to speed up her decline. So essentially, the bank can keep her millions of dollars in the bank. So you can make interest off of it. So you can make money off of it. And let's be clear, Wendy is paying for this conservator out of her money. Like, how to make that make sense?
Yeah, that
it's crazy. And so what I do think is brilliant that Wendy clearly has had a part in, and her niece Alex, was to go on this press tour, because this will raise awareness to the public. And we know we, the people, have the power. And if there is enough outrage, if there's enough something, the courts will have to look at it. You know, I'm assuming they're planning on filing something because they have launched a GoFundMe for Wendy, which is just crazy in itself, that they've launched a GoFundMe for $50,000 for the family to obtain legal representation. I checked this morning, it's at $20,000. And so it's just crazy, but the system definitely seems to be not working here. But I just want to say to all of y'all people that was like, oh, Wendy sound fine, she ready to go, she like, stop. She's not 100% there. However, Wendy is still there, but like, I just stop with this narrative that like, she back, she sound like the same. She doesn't. However, with age, life, different things, this is a different form of Wendy that we are getting. And regardless of whatever form of Wendy that we get, we love, we want to protect her. And she definitely does not need to be in this situation that she's in. And I really hope that something happens. I hope that something sheds light, because it just seems cruel, mean, and abusive to me.
Yep. The only reason that this would make any sense is if there's information that we don't know about this contract, and maybe there is someone in her family that is saying this is the best choice because they don't want to be bothered. But until that information comes out, let her out of there. Let her out of there. If she wants to go and spend the remainder of her father's life in Miami, let her do that. Let her do that. Take care of the money, take care of the banks, take care of the properties, but just let her be where she needs to be.
Right.
Like, we don't know how much longer we all have here. Like, why would you cut her off from her family? Like, especially, I don't know.
And even if you say, oh, the family's the problem, the family's the issue, it don't matter. That's still her family. Like, that's still her, like, yeah, just something doesn't seem right. And it's free Wendy. And so we had to come up on here and spill a little casual tea about this situation, because it is crazy. And we promised that we would keep you updated on any Wendy information. And it just seemed like us actually hearing from Wendy this week was important enough for us to come on and give our take. Let us know in the comments what you think about this Wendy situation. Let us know if you have had to deal with something like this in your family. It's crazy. And her court documents in New York is sealed, so we don't have access to it. We do know that there are at least 3 to 4 doctors that would have had to evaluate her to have this. But obviously, if they were evaluating Wendy during the time that we saw her during the second documentary, where clearly drug and alcohol was in play, then yeah, like she would have been incapacitated. But like, what's up with her now? What's up? Like, it just seems like, so she just supposed to stay there forever? That's the end of it. Like, we're not about to do this to a Black woman or Black queen, a pioneer in radio, legendary Wendy Williams. I really hope that something comes from this. So thank you so much, Aman, for jumping on with me so that we could tackle this. You got anything coming up you want to let the people know what's popping with you?
No, I'm just over at RHEP talking about Drag Race with Liana and Beth, so check us out over there. And my podcast with Matt Lagori. If you're a Big Brother fan, it is the podcast for you. We have Josh Martinez on this week's episode. I'm super excited, so check that out.
Yes. Well, all right. This has been your Casual Tea. We will see you in February. We're out. Free Wendy.
Free Wendy. Please.
That part.
Ooh, it's the Purple Pants Podcast. You better listen in public, might make your stomach hurt. Ooh, it's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to unwind, you better get that box wine. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to get your snack, you better hurry right back though. It's the Purple Pants. It's the Purple Pants.